Hello, this is another video where we share some of the learning that's been taking place at the Isla House free AI workshops. These are workshops that we hold once a month now. It's where anyone locally can actually come in person and just raise any questions they have around AI. We also cover content that the attendees want to work through, often around how to create social media content, how to create blog posts, how to create other content for their websites. And we're also going to more complex pieces, but it's basically all around how to start using AI in your business. So there's lots of entrepreneurs that come along and have a chat. We'll be doing our first run through now on how, pause. The topic we're going to cover today, I'm just going to go full screen, is who owns AI? And this is a fairly broad question. There's a lot of nuance to it, but we're trying to cover at a high level in these sessions the basics so people can start understanding how to engage with AI. AI is obviously a concept. Actually, who owns it comes down to a different question, and we wanted to share with everyone today the concept of a large language model. It sounds confusing. It is a bit confusing in many ways. It's often referenced as an LLM. I know for those of you new to AI and not from a super technical background, this may be a challenging concept, but it's basically LLM is the equivalent of saying for the AI world, a search engine. So what is the service that I'm going to go and interact with? And that's actually where you get your results from. And that's more or less a proxy for those at the, starting their journey for basically saying an AI. There's a whole bunch of AIs out there, or LLMs. What the most common ones are on the left-hand side here. So ChatGPT, that's created by OpenAI. I'm just going to pause here because I want to change the animation. So moving on from the large language models, I'll stop here. So moving on from our concept of today, which is large language models, you would have heard of lots of these AI providers or the companies who have made different AIs. So each of these AIs is in fact, as I said, a large language model, and most of these companies each have multiple versions. So sometimes those versions are just updated, or sometimes they actually have an objective, a different objective of how they are to function. The most famous one that you would all know is ChatGPT. The company behind it is OpenAI. So OpenAI has, I think the most recent version is 4 that's publicly known, but they've actually got iterations on 4 as well. And there's more versions that will continuously come. The most classic thing that people know about these versions is when did it last capture data? When was it last searching the internet to pick up all the public information and have all that knowledge captured? That's the most common difference between these for the person starting with a LLM or an AI. The reality is there's a lot more to the difference between LLMs. It can be, for instance, the types of inputs you can put in and out. So whether it's text, video, or audio, et cetera, or it can be what it's creating for you. So it can be actually creating images or video or whatever mode that's coming out, whatever interaction model it has. Um, with that, we have the interaction models, the timing, but it can also be the length of, like a simple example is text in and out. But there's a whole bunch of other factors of how do you want that LLM to behave? How do you want the AI to behave? Let's start there. Pause. How do you want that AI to behave? And you have controls, which normally as a user, you don't really look at them at the start of how you want them to behave in terms of, do you want it to be quite as accurate as possible to the data that sits in the LLM, or do you want it to be a bit more creative and be less repetitive? There's a whole bunch of different factors that go into that. All I want you to know today is there's not one AI, there's many AIs. There's many AIs per company as well. So I've got a few here which are not just about who owns these AI tools. So ChatGPT, OpenAI is well known, and Tropic is one you'll see more and more. Gemini is probably the one you've seen the most out there if you've heard of anything beyond ChatGPT. There's Llama, Hugging Face, Mistle, and Co here. The last 3 or so are more for those in the tech industry who are playing around with more things. I'll explain a bit more in a moment. But those top 4 I want to mention because who is behind them? we're getting some funny animations. I'll fix that later. But so for ChatGPT, OpenAI, basically that's Microsoft's bet. They put a investment in many years ago. They put more money in again, and that's why Microsoft has really had a resurgence recently because they are the core operating company behind ChatGPT, and you'll see it integrated with many of their products if you're a Microsoft user. And it's obviously their key strategic position for ChatGPT, but also taking all of that back into their existing product suite and customer base. And Tropic, you probably haven't heard of. It's not as common for the average user, but it's just interesting to understand that it's from AWS. It's very popular in the tech industry. AWS is Amazon Web Services, which is owned by Amazon. The third, Gemini, is from Google, or technically the top company is Alphabet these days, but Google's the entity that everyone knows. So Gemini is their own version, and I'm sure many of you are starting to see it appear in things like Gmail. So you can actually have the AI integrated to the products and services you're using today. The last one, Llama. Don't love these animations, but anyway, the last one, Llama, is from what would you know? What you know it as Facebook, otherwise officially Meta, and they're doing enormous investments around this. Some of you might have seen in the tech news that where they're investing many, many, many billions as they move away from their investment in the what's it called, the metaverse, to be more focused on AI. These last three are becoming very popular. They're very popular more for people in tech. Hugging Face obviously has the best name. This is a group. Actually, a few of these are all Hugging Face and Mistle have a origin in France and the US. So it's often found as with associations with France. The French government has been doing a lot of investment around and supporting AI companies. But these two entities basically are bridges between US and France and Cohere. This is more of an enterprise business focused one that we've been seeing more and more as a UK origin and relationship with the US. So these last three you might not see so much. What I like about these last three is they have more models built for different purposes. And Hugging Face was also driving lots of the open source, so that making models easier to access and to have different outcomes and inputs. So Hugging Face is driving lots of the open source community. It's actually where if you wanted to have your own LLM, you probably start there looking at some samples and working with that piece. The key takeaways are there's not one AI, there's many AIs. There's many AIs per company. The top AIs around are all owned by the regular tech folk that you know, and there are open source options coming. The best visualization of this, I think, is actually I'm going to show you a website, which is the company I work for as my full-time job, called Vercel. I'm just going to switch over the browser here. I hope it's still recording. And this is it's more for technical users, but I think it's a great example on how to show the differences between the different AIs. So I'm going to do two things. Number one, I'm going to pick two AIs here from ChatGPT, who you all know and love out there. So the version 3.5 and 4, or 3.5 Turbo and 4. So 4 obviously came out later. Then OpenAI I've got right here. I'm going to change this one to, let's go to, we actually don't have the options from Gemini in here at this moment in time. Let's pick one of the Facebook ones. So Llama. So I'm just going to do a quick prompt here. So as you know, prompt is just when we ask a question to the AIs. And what I like here is that it very clearly displays that even the same company, two different AIs give you different outcomes. And then different companies with different AIs give you further different outcomes. So coming up with a quick prompt is, okay, what is the leading, let's say LLM, so large language model in the world? Obviously it's partially subjective, but let's see what it does. So we're going to have that same prompt go into all three services. So this 3.5 Turbo at OpenAI, 4 at OpenAI, and Llama V2 13B. So I'll just press send, and we'll pause this bit and delete it out.